Hey guys, Nathan here at Polysource. Today we will be doing a Graco Fusion AP teardown and rebuild for somebody that doesn't know what's going on. Alright, so one thing I want to go over, when you're doing any work on your gun, your machine, your pumps, anything at all, you want to have the manual out. There's a lot of good information on here. It tells you the parts. There's also different big blown up schematics that you can get. So with gun breakdown, start at the front, work to the back. This is your air tip. This will control your pattern. It has 4 holes here, kind of at the 12, 3, 6, and 9 o'clock positions. You got to make sure this is clean whenever you're cleaning out your chamber so that you have a proper pattern. This is your front air cap. It keeps your side seals inside the fluid housing, and it's got a Teflon O-ring right in here. The way to test if this Teflon O-ring is still good, you take this front tip, you stick it there. If that doesn't fall through, the O-ring's still good. These here are your side seals. You just take a screwdriver, give a little pop, it should pull out. Alright, so it's your side seal assembly. This is your side seal housing on the outside. It has 2 O-rings to make sure that the fluid doesn't pass through on the sides. It goes through the side seal itself into the chamber. If you ever need to take out your side seal, don't take pliers, grab it, start pulling, you'll mar the edge. And if you create a burr on the edge of your side seal, what happens when you put it on your chamber and your chamber pulls back, it will actually score the side of your chamber, and then you're going to have to refinish it, and if it's bad enough, you're going to have to replace your chamber. So what you want to do is take a pick or a very small flathead screwdriver, and you stick it in here inside the spring, and you just lift up, and that pops your side seal out, and then you can take it out without damaging it. Inside this side seal housing there is a spring, and that's what keeps tension of the side seal onto the chamber. If you ever want to test if that spring is still good when you have it assembled, just put on something flat so you're not damaging the side seal, and just give it a little press. If it punches back at you, it's still good. Okay. Now these side seal housings, everything on the gun, Fusion AP, B side doesn't have any lettering. The A side has lettering. Now we take the A side out, and like I was just saying, the A does have lettering here. If you happen to have ones, you know, that don't have lettering at all, none of your stock does because the A's have been damaged over time, just make sure that they are clean, and then you could just take a letter punch and punch an A on the end of it so you do know which one's which. On the outside of your check valve assembly, there are these filter screens here. They come in a wide variety of mesh. The finer the mesh is for your coatings, because you don't want particulates getting into your coating. The foam ones are a bit coarser, so a 40 mesh, your 100s and 80s would be for your coatings. Now there is a check ball inside of this check valve, which creates pressure to the fluid coming in. They do get dirty once in a while. You can clean them up. Just be very careful with this spring if you're trying to pull this ball away from the spring. If it's not coming freely, don't force it. Just soak it in glycol or NMP for a while. Otherwise you're going to stretch this out and you're going to have to order one. If you're out in the field, that could cause downtime and you might not be able to finish your job. And ball goes in first, then spring, and this adjuster screw. Now the biggest problem I find as the service tech when these are coming in is that guys don't know where to set this screw at. You want it to be flush with the top here. You don't want it too far down, otherwise you're causing too much pressure on the ball. You don't want it too high up, otherwise you don't have enough pressure. And like everything else on the Fusion, the A has a small A here and the B has nothing. Now for this video, I'm kind of piling everything here. This is a brand new gun that we're dealing with. If you're doing this with a dirty gun and you're pulling everything apart, try and keep A and B separate. You don't want those fluids flowing onto each other and then crossing over and just causing bigger problems. Now that we have our side seals off of our chamber, it's not going to score the chamber pulling off this fluid housing. So we can back this lock ring off, get that guy out. So underneath this cap here, grab a nut driver. It's a 5/16 nut driver. It goes well with every gun in the foam industry. Most of them need it. It's good to have in your possession. This is a little cap just so that your grease nipple doesn't get clogged up. Okay. Way to test if your grease nipple is good or not is try and pump some grease in it, see if it comes through the end. If it just keeps puking out the sides, it's not good. Change it. We can take this guy off. All right, so we get that grease nipple out. Sometimes it gets stuck in things. It's all right. All right, so you do have a small bore here that goes into where the chamber sits to get grease in. Sometimes that does clog up. You can take a small brush for cleaning. Just give that a little clean out. So this is the clean off air valve. You can let off air coming through the end with it. If you're going into a tighter space, you don't want to have to turn down the pressure of your foam down at the machine. Also, if your gun seizes up and you have a lot of pressure in the gun, you can relieve it with this guy. There is an O-ring here on this one. Once in a while it does need changed, but not that often. And there is a port inside here, and it goes through into the gun that way, as well as out the front here. But that's just the bleed off. This is a, what is this, lock ring. There's an O-ring on here, right here, and there is another ring for this lock nut right here. Not going to take it off now, but the easiest way is just take a flathead and run your flathead around and it will pop up. So the biggest thing I have to say about this for new people, where the side seal housings sit inside this bore, don't take anything metal in there. Don't take a metal pick. Graco sells, just a second, this nice Fusion gun cleaning kit, okay? And inside of it comes with this plastic pick, okay? If you have ISO built up inside of here, use your plastic pick. Don't ruin this bore, okay? It also comes with Teflon brushes and nylon brushes, and you can clean this well inside here. If it's not coming clean, just be patient, soak it a bit longer, you know, wait a couple hours. You don't want to damage it. This is about $1,200 for this piece. If you scratch it and you end up having fluid running down the sides of these O-rings into where the chamber is, you will get a crossover over and over and over every time you clean, and you will not like your life. So this is your chamber. Now, how the chamber works, we're going to talk about a bit here. So what happens inside your gun, when you pull this trigger and the spooling rod comes back, it lets air in here and it pulls back your chamber, okay? Your side seals actually sit on the chamber like that inside the gun. What happens, this ends up pulling back, and these side seals end up getting in line with these impingement ports, which are not straight. They're actually cockeyed a bit. And that comes in, and your fluid rushes in, and your air is no longer going through your chamber. Your fluid pressure from your machine is causing your chemicals, your A and B, to mix inside the chamber and shoot onto your substrate. When you let go of the trigger, your piston, air piston, ends up pushing it back forward, and that's what stops your foam from coming out. And that is why they're called side seals, is because they seal to the side of the chamber. Okay, so with these chambers, kind of the rule of thumb with your chambers in the foam industry is numbers up. Graco has its AW2222 on here stamped, so that would go up. The other nice thing with this Fusion AP is that if the numbers have worn off of it, it has this little notch, okay? The notch is for your A side. Now your A side is always marked, so if you ever need to, you know, you can see which side of the gun that is, line it up with the full gun, see, okay, it's on the left side when the gun is facing, you know, the wall, so then your notch would go on the left side in here, okay? And you can put it upside down. What happens is, because these holes aren't in line with each other, one will let fluid out, one won't. It'll just spike in your machine. So sometimes when you're having E24s and pressure imbalances on your machine, it's just the fact that, you know, if you did a rebuild recently, maybe that chamber is upside down. So this is your back air cap and safety assembly. There is an O-ring on here that creates the seal to the back, okay, your air seal. Now, if you ever need to, you know, if there's air leaking out the back here, in your rebuild kit for O-rings, it does have one. A lot of the time you don't need to, it's just when air starts leaking out. You just undo this guy, unscrew it, okay, and it unscrews off this stop there. And there is an O-ring right on here, okay. And there's a spring here. Basically, if you're, you know, your lock, when you undo your safety, if it's not popping back out, this spring's probably gone. I've never actually seen one of these springs wear out, so it's probably the last place to look if there's any issues. Just stick that guy back in these two little notches that are in here, and screw it in. Okay, so this is your air piston. It's got two O-rings on here, okay? The small one, large one. Thing we should say about O-rings is if they're flat and it doesn't look, when you look down them, it doesn't look like they're protruding off whatever they're recessed in, chuck them, get new ones. It's not worth risking your gun failing in the field and causing more problems, having crossovers, you know, safety's not working, air piston's not working, okay? Keep your O-rings good. Everything in your gun you want to have kind of hand tight, except for this guy. I had this blow off, hit me in the mask one time when I was spraying. Scared the crap out of me. I was about 70 feet up in the air, almost fell off the scaffolding. Not very fun, okay? So just keep this guy tight. It's the last thing you want to have happen when you're working in a chemical environment, all right? So that's the spring that keeps your spooling rod forward, and this is your Graco air fitting. So here's our spooling rod. It's got a hollow bore. So you want to make sure that the inside of this is clean. Take a drill bit, clean it out. If it's going too hard and you have to go into, you know, a drill with a drill bit on it and you're hammering, just, you know, try soaking it a bit longer. Have spare parts so that you can soak stuff. You don't want to go through and end up going into the steel at the end. It's happened. You know, it's a costly mistake instead of having some patience and just soaking it overnight. If you ever are spraying and your pattern starts out as a nice circle and immediately drops down to a P stream, a lot of the time there's just a V that ends up getting notched in the end here, and that's when it's time to change your spooling rod. Okay, so this is your muffler. This guy just pops off. And there's a screen here. This gets filled with grease from the gun every time it expels air. And what happens is, you know, it'll get grease and it'll get dirt from the other side, get kicked up on it, and it ends up creating back pressure into your gun, and you don't end up having proper flow and you have problems. A lot of guys, first thing they do, they buy a brand new gun, they pop this out. I don't disagree with that because it solves a lot of problems down the road in the field. Pop this guy out. Okay, that's just a 1/4 inch plug with a socket head on it. If that ever gets damaged, which probably won't, you can always just swap it out, or if you lose it. Okay, so inside here there are a couple airways. So on the end of the handle here, if you're wanting to check if this is clean, take your flashlight, okay, and shine it down the bore for your spooling rod, like that, and you can see if that is clean on each of them, which we can, okay. And then flip your gun. There's 2 air ports back here, okay. Shine that flashlight, same hole, and you can see if they're clean, if there's foam in there, if you need to do some more scrubbing, okay. And then for this one at the front, it's on an angle, okay? So this one comes in 45 here and then drops straight. So if it's ever plugged up, you're not getting airflow through there, don't just keep throwing a drill bit in trying to get it out, okay? You want to come in at a 45 here and then in from the bottom. So to check if that one's clear, we shine from the bottom through this hole where the plug was, okay? And then we can see some light coming through that hole. Next thing I want to mention with this spooling rod, sometimes you get burrs in here when you're cleaning it out. Try not to use picks. Once again, go with the nylon brushes. Just be gentle with it. If you create a burr inside that and it nicks this, doesn't matter how many times you change that O-ring, you put it in, you pull the trigger, it's ruined. You put it in, you pull the trigger, it's ruined, okay? It gets costly. Eventually you end up having to drill out this, get it smooth, and go to a larger size O-ring. It's just not fun, because then you ask somebody to send you out O-rings, they sent you the wrong ones. A lot of downtime in the field, okay? So now that our gun, you know, we soak it in NMP, glycol ether overnight, get it all cleaned up. Alright guys, that's the full Graco Fusion AP teardown. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow our channel for more helpful videos on guns, parts, servicing, and everything spray foam.